What mystery illness is on the rise and kind of sort of everywhere? About 3 million people currently in the United States have this. What unknown or commonly overlooked illness is seen by physicians and practitioners around the country on almost a daily basis, yet it's not being diagnosed? This thing looks like a lot of different illnesses. This mystery illness can look like chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. It can also look like palpitations, fast heart rate, anxiety. It can look like insomnia. In kids, it can look like ADHD as well as ADD. So this can look like a lot of things, and it's really, really common. So what am I talking about? What is this mystery illness that's commonly overlooked, kind of sort of everywhere? There are things we can do about it, but yet no one's talking about it. What I'm talking about is POTS, P-O-T-S, which is a kind of dysautonomia. Now, some of you all may be wondering, why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about it on social? And why am I doing this live right now? What's interesting, my wife and I actually were on a trip, one of our first vacations, actually last week we've had alone for quite some time. And we ran into people who have kids with POTS or dysautonomia. This is literally everywhere. Even on vacation, I'm running into people who have this thing. So I want to talk about, take a more generalized discussion about more than just what we're doing in social on the blogs right now, to let people really realize this. One, either if everybody knows someone who's dealing with this, and that is pretty crazy to think about it. So POTS or dysautonomia, what it is basically an imbalance in your body's blood pressure system, neurological system, and immune system. And the result is you don't get enough blood pressure to your organ or body parts, to your brain. So it can look like dizziness, lightheadedness, even pseudo seizures. It can look like, these weird kind of shaking, tremor kind of things. It can be just chronic fatigue. A lot of my patients who have anxiety, OCD kind of stuff will have these anxiety or panic episodes, and they don't realize it's not actually a stressor. It's the body's, this POTS kind of thing. A lot of times it can actually look like other things and be associated with autoimmune issues. Some of my older patients actually will have labile or uncontrolled fluctuating blood pressure numbers. So this can look like a lot of different things. There's 3 major kinds of POTS. The first one is actually autoimmune POTS or dysautonomia. And the interesting thing about the autoimmune type is it usually comes along with other things. One of the reasons I think that POTS is commonly overlooked in our current healthcare system is because it doesn't really come by itself. It's just like a grouping of symptoms, like the ones I mentioned before. And there's usually a trigger and something else going on. So unless you see an expert, whatever that kind of word means, who deals with this, it's going to be missed commonly. But the first one is autoimmune. So if I see patients with Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, any autoimmune gut issues, I always kind of look for, do they have this POTS kind of thing? The other kind of POTS is actually a neuropathic POTS, and people have weird tingling, feet things. You tend to see in patients with mold illness, Lyme, and other kind of neurological things. And the other one is an adrenergic POTS. This is the POTS that occurs in your adrenal patients, your adrenal fatigue patients. Sometimes these people are so tired and so fatigued that they just don't have the energy to get up throughout the day. It's hard to pull themselves out of bed. They have to get their coffee and things to get their energy going. And as you can see, this is actually a lot of people. This sounds like a lot of patients I see on a daily basis. Again, 3 million Americans, 1% of the population roughly are dealing with this. Yet most primary care doctors, most functional practitioners and functional doctors aren't really looking for this and aren't really addressing and treating it. Yet there's so many things that can be done for this. So one of the things I want to do is talk about this a little more, discuss it. We've done a lot of blogs on it that are actually being put out right now. But the reality is a lot of people know someone with POTS or dysautonomia, and it's just being missed. And when I hear these cases of people who've just been overlooked by the system, who've been neglected, and the basic therapies are so simple to actually help patients with it. So that's one of the reasons I'm talking about doing a live. It's also one of the reasons why I'm doing some of the blogs. This is something that's commonly overlooked, that's commonly missed, yet it's common. It's kind of sort of everywhere. So there's a lot of illnesses that fall into this category. So I want to talk about 5 major ones right now, real briefly, that you should look for if someone has POTS. The first thing is hypermobility. One of the things that I see often with a lot of these kind of mystery illnesses, people are double jointed or hypermobile, which by itself is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. But if in the wrong situation, the wrong environment, mold, trauma, head injuries, poor nutrition, illnesses, a bunch of things, all of a sudden the hypermobility can trigger this abnormal regulation in the neurologic blood pressure, and immune system, which can look like POTS or a bunch of other things. The other thing I look for is this thing called mast cell activation syndrome, which again sounds kind of weird, MCAS, but yet in Germany, about 19% of the population has this. So this is another kind of mystery illness, and that looks very much like POTS, very much like other autoimmune issues, and again is commonly overlooked. I also look for people with gastrointestinal GI tract issues, IBS, gas, bloating, SIBO, SIFO, dysbiosis, chronic constipation, bloating, food allergies, food reactions, can't tolerate stuff. It's interesting how much of our immune system, 90%, is actually around our GI tract. So if you have any kind of immune, neurological issues, you always have to consider the GI tract. So I've already mentioned hypermobility. And the other thing is autoimmune illnesses is one of these 5 big things you always want to look for if you have any of these other things, especially the POTS. And again, probably about 20% of patients with POTS will have the autoimmune version of it, which at the Mayo Clinic, they order labs for it, but the typical doctor doesn't because it's just rare and uncommon, yet it's kind of sort of everywhere. So briefly, what I'm going to be doing is talking about this a little more the next couple of weeks. If this interests you, please make some comments below. Let us know if you're interested in learning more about this. But I have done a bunch of blogs on it that are on our website. I want to talk about it more. And the main reason is I just hear so many people say they've seen doctors, nothing helped them. They finally got that diagnosis. And basic things like fluid, electrolytes, compression, certain exercises that can help a lot of people. But there's also other alternative treatments, acupuncture, cranioscervical therapies, finding the trigger for the POTS, finding the other underlying autoimmune issue with the POTS, treating the gut issues with the POTS. All of a sudden, if someone's hypermobile looking for sleep apnea, which is super common, all of a sudden now there's ways to address this that can actually help people and put this in remission. And again, I see it routinely in my clinic. So I'm going to be sharing this more over the next couple of weeks. If you want to learn more about it, you can look at some of the blogs we've been putting up on our website. But share this information with friends, if anybody knows anybody who has POTS or dysautonomia, because this again is super common. It's kind of sort of everywhere. And we'll be talking about this more a little bit. If this is something that interests you or you have family or friends that actually have this, please share this with them. Give us some comments actually as well on this when it gets posted after I finish the live. So, but hopefully this information is helpful and we'll be talking more about it now in the coming weeks. If anybody has any questions about it, I can answer them real quickly because we actually have had a bunch of people pop in. Otherwise, we'll keep on doing some more of these labs and help educate people to take action in their health, to educate people, encourage them, and empower them to actually be more engaged in their health. So take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.